Welcome back, and I think we're all just in a tiny bit of shock after that game. That did not go the way that we expected, Juves.
No, I mean the series so far, we've only played two games, but the series has been the team that wins the earliest loses,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
that's a very, I guess, bad way to summarize it, but also good. It feels like we're talking about the game just being, I guess, over, or the team that's in control really should be able to close it out cleanly. Because when you get to playoffs, it's like I feel like the team with the lead, or the team with the substantial lead, or the team with even just just a lead that allows them to execute their comp should really
Mm.
be able to close the game out cleanly.
But it's not even that. The comps just aren't playing the way the comps should play. You pick Varys Tarm Kench to maintain bottom lane priority whilst being able to avoid ganks, to be able to start stacking dragons, right?
Mm.
First two dragons of the game went to direwolves.
Mm.
Like, they're just. This is the weirdest series I think I've seen the Chiefs play in a very long time. Had a CS lead in their melee assassin versus control mage, which shouldn't happen, but were unable to get prio against the bottom lane that they dove at level 2. I think Trundle should have a field day in this composition, but instead just got caught out for the last 20 minutes of the game. It was very strange.
I,
Juves. Oh no, Juves, you go ahead.
okay, yeah, I've been very vocal throughout the year. I've been a very big Chase fan, especially the way they were playing. I think I'm allowed to say, and I think when I say this, it should mean something. I think that's maybe the worst game I've ever seen the Chiefs play this split. In terms of the lead that they had, or the
Mm-hmm.
position they got themselves into, to then just maybe for 15 minutes, just everyone getting picked, everyone getting caught. And I said it looked like they weren't on comms. It looked like they just muted and they let the game play out how like you would in solo queue, just using pings, and maybe sometimes you mute pings because you just didn't want to listen to them.
Juves, what was the biggest problem for them? Was it the fact that they just kept losing these fights that they shouldn't have lost? It just seemed like every time they get into a team fight situation, it's like, hang on a second, that did not happen the way that it was scripted.
It felt like that the Chiefs got to a point in the game where it felt very easy. And what I mean by that is like you press tab and then you start to calm down a little bit. I've had games where like, you're in playoffs, you press tab, you see Claire and Diana got a few kills, Katsuri, my bot lane's smurfing on them. You genuinely become comfortable and you think that the game is in such a good spot and you let it play out, and you lose that edge in the game. And sometimes I think the
Complacency.
edge, yes, complacency. And the complacency, I think, is what killed the Chiefs this game. They started to get picked. They started to try and save members. Rather than cut losses, they then tried to save people, which resulted in more losses. And it was just, I think it was just, it was really a mess. Like, it was genuinely a mess.
And the craziest thing about the whole game is like the direwolves were running a skill check comp, right?
Mm.
You put Oriana Ball on Jarvan or the Malphite, and it's like, can you flash the combo? Like the answer yesterday was no. The answer today was yes most of the time.
Mm.
But they weren't losing the fights due to the big wombo. There wasn't one fight where I was like, Malphite ult into Jarvan ult into Shockwave into bullet time. Wow, 5 people are dead.
Yeah.
It was like Trundle solo trying to take Crab while his Diana is bottom lane and Pantheon's in base, gets caught. They double teleport in or use a Pantheon ult. And then for some reason, Direwolves don't want to do Baron, but then Chiefs think they're going to do Baron, so they keep fighting them. And then they just slowly bleed members and they're losing all these dragons. And it was just like, we were talking, it was like, okay, cool. Chiefs did the right thing. They go burn the Malphite ult before the next big fight. And then the Dire will somehow just still kill someone on the back end of the fight. Like Claire wants a blue buff randomly because his is up, but the enemy blue buff is closer and there's only 2 enemies there. It was really, really bizarre League of Legends.
Can I ask, and I don't want to tell these people how to do their job because obviously one of us just got knocked out of the playoffs and is filled with shame. Another one of us doesn't even play professional league anymore, and I've only just unlocked ranked play. But can the Direwolves keep letting Diana through?
So I personally believe Diana should be off the board now. So I think it's dangerous territory when the way that you win the game is the enemy team not playing the game, right? I think like if that is your draft motto, and that's the like if your draft motto is okay, we'll give them their best champion, but it's okay because they're not playing well. I think it's a very dangerous way to draft. Like Diana has been a problem for them, has nearly even turned around this last game for them. Was ahead in the last game. I think that it may be worth sacking the Ornn ban because, Jake, you touched on this, that potentially, and I don't know this, but maybe you do, potentially Chiefs are better at Diana than they are on.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I had to prepare for the Chiefs. If we would have taken blue side a lot to make them try and ban the OPs, and we would have banned Akali, Diana, Tahm Kench. They're the 3 best champions that the Chiefs have got. They're getting 2 of them like nearly every single draft. So I'm in agreement with Juves. I think like they play so well around skirmishes and these champions that can stop-start team fights. Like Diana flies in, ults, uses stopwatch. Like the whole team fight has to stop around the champion because she does so much damage. Tahm Kench stop-starts a team fight. And they're so good at team fights that if you give them these like weird team fight champions on top of it, it makes the game super chaotic. And like you want to kill the Misfortune, but you can't run past the Diana and stuff like that starts to happening, right? So I completely agree. Like, give them a wombo combo comp. I don't think they play them all that well. I think they play like the high mechanical, like skill check comps very, very well.
Now, Chiefs may have lost that game, but the audience were the real winners because we got a bunch of winners thanks to NeoSurf with the competition that we're running, all playoffs, and we've got another chance for you guys to win. There's a winner, there's 4 runners up. All you need to do is go to the OPL Twitter page at OPL, guess the total gold of all the players for the next game. The competition ends 10 minutes into the game. And then for your chance to win, you win legendary skins, you win masterwork chests and keys. NeoSurf, my goodness, thank you so much for everything that you're doing for us.
Yeah, and alternatively, if you don't follow the OPL, just head over to @SinJuves. He's going to be able to hit you up with a sick retweet. He'll get you some skins as well.
Oh, I don't know about getting skins, but
you are all over Twitter straight away. As soon as the cameras are off, it's just your heart and retweeting. You're the biggest supporter of the OPL. It's such a shame that we're going to have to fire you at the end of this playoff run. All right, let's get into Game 3. It is Chiefs versus Direwolves, and it's the Magus Champ Select.
If you're craving the taste of your favourites, head to Macca's for a fast, safe and contactless drive-through experience. For your Macca's run, contact-free, we'll be here.
Welcome back, as we are all tied up here in this best of 5. Both teams now looking to come into game number 3 with perhaps a few adaptations. We've seen 2 back-to-back games where teams have fallen behind in the early game, but then being able to claw it back and win in the later stages.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the conversation that was happening, they were having just before, was about getting rid of the Diana, getting rid of the things that are very good for the Chiefs, and it's all true, but the Direwolves haven't been doing that, right? There is the set that they usually have to ban on the red side, and that's one of the things that makes things harder, but now they're back to blue. So now they can actually go for target bans, but once again, they are the Direwolves. They have to ban the Ornn on blue side, not red. So they give over a free ban to the Chiefs, and it means that the picks that they like to play are still well and truly up and available. Diana is one of those. Tahm Kench is another one. The third that Spawn mentioned was the Akali, that is actually still, at the very least, going to be one of the bans.
Yeah, I was having a bit of a conversation with Carbon just before, asking, what do you feel like is this thought process behind the Akali and the Diana? He's like, well, the Akali a little bit easier to counteract because it can be flexing those 2 lanes, but the Diana, you're probably going to see that just going to the mid lane. So maybe as to why they are, more going towards that as being their ban preference, to say we are going to let you have those comforts because we just feel that we are outright better with these bans that are presenting themselves here.
And I mean, that's not entirely correct, right? They've already lost a game to the Chiefs, and Diana was a major proponent in that success. It's going to be up and available again. They tried the Veigar into it, so perhaps that was the real strategy. And then they ran themselves into a trap where they were like, well, crap, it didn't work. What do we do? But we can't change any of our other bans. So it could just be a preparation and a planning thing. Regardless of that, however, it is still up and available. Aphelios, the first pick here, though, from the Chiefs side. I mean, they get the stronger, arguably, of course, of the ADs.
Yeah, and this is another champion that Katsuri's had his pentakill on. It's been on Aphelios as well as the Misfortune, so there's no denying his skill on these two, as Crocker's going to get himself the Lee Sin. And whenever he gets this is one of those champions where he can truly demonstrate his mechanical prowess and make those wombo combo plays just happen out of thin air.
Yeah, but they are still giving the free wombo over to the Direwolves, and honestly, what they're doing right now shouldn't be too surprising. They don't necessarily need to lock in a support here, Direwolves. I would like to see, so this is one of the few adaptations that they will make. It's not going to be an Orianna in mid lane, so it is not a pure Malphite, Ori, Jarvan type wombo composition. Shock's most comfortable champion, however, if they're going to blind pick for him and save their support option, is usually going to be the Syndra. It's not a flex, but it is comfort for him.
And this will be a happy situation for Shock, given that it's been permanently banned really in this series and for the most part of these playoffs. So now that the flex of the Olaf between Mir and Chippies is now being highly valued by the Chiefs, it allows them to do what Shock's done in the past, which is, blind pick his matchup when he can get one of those two comforts between the Syndra and the Cassiopeia.
Yeah, and you'll see the thing that Chiefs can do here is they get the power to over the support role. They'll pick the Braum, they'll ban the Bard away. They have a second option if they would like to get rid of something away from the Direwolves. Braum's pretty good in the Tahm Kench, however, so there's not too much concern there, honestly, overall. You could even consider a top laner being taken away if you would like. Something that will just help Tian pick, because they do have to show something forth, and it will be one of those solo laners. If it's a Diana, then I don't think they have any concerns at all and can continue to harass the support role.
Engaging supports that Cupcake is proficient at have been removed away now with the Nautilus taken off. And the final ban will be once again towards Lil Blanc, so very stock standard bans targeted towards Claire. Still going to let him have that Diana.
If he chooses to go for it, now they did just lose with it, and a lot of teams don't like losing on the same champion twice. So they do often like to mix things up and change the game. They can see the matchup, and it is a Syndra. So if he would like to be the Diana, it would still be perfectly fine. But the option here that they're going to go for is the Corki. And I did mention this a lot yesterday and earlier in the series today. But if you have a Braum composition, Corki actually just gets so much more value now, being able to, complement the crowd control that exists.
Yeah, there were a few different picks that he could have gone for, given that they don't have the Tahm Kench. Maybe there was a world in which the Rise was an option for that global navigation, but as you state, the concussive blow passive that Braum presents makes it quite easy for the backline to get those stuns online and make Croc's life just a little bit easier. But this is a very big spanner in the work here, Rusty, with the Rakan and the Poppy.
I played some video games with Kai yesterday, Skimmy, and I played a Poppy game and went 18-2, so maybe he was watching very closely for my... No, Chippies is actually an old school Poppy player. It's one of the few tanks that he is very proficient on, but he's done it blind. So the only way that you see this being a potentially viable thing is if they flex their lanes as well. He's now against a Mordekaiser, so I do bring into question the choice of just going for a blind Poppy. It's often picked because of a countermeasure, having that steadfast presence, having the W to ground someone and not let them dash away is why you pick it. His opponent doesn't do that at all.
But I'm quite curious, right, because you look at what Chiefs have right now. They've got some great backline CC to make Braum really come online, and now you've got two, big picking potential playmakers in the Lee Sin and the Mordekaiser. We've seen back-to-back fights where sometimes you've had that instant 4v5 right off the get-go. Quite interested to see what value the Defrom actually presents in his composition.
Yeah, so Chiefs comp is just good. Aphelios does a bulk of the damage anyway. Claire's going to be scaling up nicely. The Mordekaiser can obviously be a huge difference maker, depending on who you choose to target. But does isolate a lot of skirmishes into being more of a 4v4 than the all-out 5v5. Direwolves didn't opt into the pure Wombo 5v5 composition in this game, so one of the few times we'll see some very different takes from them. They still have tanks, they still have a front-to-back style composition, but they're going to have to innovate a little bit through the early stages of this one, I'm suspecting, to be able to make it work and get to those item spikes. The first thing for me is that they might just put the Poppy into mid lane.
Okay. And the reason being, what's the thought process for the matchup against Corki?
You can, the Valkyrie is a high mana spell, and you don't want to have to use that, but Poppy can gap close and threaten you very nicely and actually prevents your ability to do that. You have high kill threat with the Jarvan there as well. If you don't do that, the reason that I would suggest this as a possibility is if you don't do that, you're against a Mordekaiser and you just get harassed, Mordekaiser is going to enjoy that matchup. He's going to have no problems with it at all. And if you pick that Poppy for comp, then it is mostly to deal with the Lee Sin and the Corki in particular, so why not start it early?
Well, let's see what the game plan is. We enter into game number 3 of the playoffs. Semi-finals between Direwolves and Chiefs. The series is tied at 1-1. And we've got a few interesting picks now to change up the plan. The Bees will stay around, as will the Crabs as well.
Big fan of the animals.
Will be shaken up.
In the Wolves camp, they love their animals emotes at the very least. And one of the other advantages, so I spoke about the potential of a Poppy lane flex. The alternative to that is just high pressure on the Corki in the first place. You know, Syndra is obviously not the best top laner if you were forced to flip that, so it does make sense to still keep her mid. They don't quite get that ward that they were after. But if they do get ganks off in mid lane Skimmy, the Syndra can snowball and be really hard to deal with.
Yeah, we've seen what happens when Shock can get this pick, but also we've seen what happens when Corkis get online as well, especially those 2 to 3 item spikes, and just be an absolute menace from afar with the package acting as a game changer in dictating dragons and Baron fights. But this series has very much been dictated, I want to say, by a lot of how the junglers have been matching one another and showing a lot of influence in the bottom side of the map. They've been very much on the same intuition of game sense as to, I need to be here. We haven't seen Mir do any crazy shenanigans of, like, you know, 1 buff red, level 2 ganks.
Yeah, nothing big happening this game. Croc starts his blue buff. W start Lee Sin can always solo camps perfectly fine. He's now going to move towards his red side of the map and potentially threatening towards top lane. Mir's going to have a massive advantage in that regard. He's already clearing these camps on the top side. Wants to get 3 as fast as he possibly can after this Gromp camp. So he'll be onto the map quicker. He'll be looking for ganks first if he chooses to take them. He will be spotted, however, if he goes top. So he's going to avoid that vision. We may just have a 2v2 up here very early.
This is very interesting. Going to navigate himself straight into that tri-brush, undetected.
Waiting on his cooldowns. He's ready to go.
EQ is there. Out comes the flash response. EQ to do the damage, and the one-tap flash. Chippies gets out. Croc jumps in, now looking at a 1v2. I don't think you want this fight at all. Croc, if you fall on down, you donate double buffs. That is not the dream situation. Force the flash away. A teleport's going to come in here from Tien to get himself back to this lane to contest. The kick lands! Sonic Wave from afar. Chippies will get the double buffs. Buff transfer complete to the top lane.
Yeah, Chippies has doubles. That's pretty disastrous for Chiefs overall. So there was some really cool interactions that happened through that fight, though, Skimmy. There was a smite used on a minion to get the Nimbus Cloak proc activated for Croc. And so he gets that movement speed to close the distance to hit the Sonic Wave. Bot lane fighting as well.
It is. It's going to force out a flash very defensively from Vital. Summoner he'll use to give them movement speed. They're looking for that one final auto, and they will find it, or will they not? They do in the end. I think he was looking to unleash that Gravitum to root him in place, but the cooldown was too long. And Cupcake can merely watch his teammate fall to the floor.
Yeah, Katsuri, Korea CK once again prove why they are in this position in the playoffs rounds in the first place. They were able to get those 2v2 solo kills against Vital and against Cupcake, and they do no different in this third game of the best of 5 series. They're going to push this in as best they can. Croc going to be here to ensure that it happens. It's a nice little start there from the Chiefs on the bottom side of the Rift.
Once again, Mir is hovering, and Cupcake is going to take a lot of damage from these minions to ensure that he can try and jump in with the draw of the Chiefs being very low on mana. There's no ability to try and turn around here. The opportunity passes. And he can set themselves up with a small item advantage until Katsuri returns, but mid lane, very desirable trade there achieved by Shock.
Yeah, fantastic damage coming out of the Syndra. This is one of those matchups where it is pretty advisable to go for a Hex Drinker as the Corki, but with the current Corki build running around, being a tier of the Goddess, hang on a bloody second, Tien. He wants a crack at a double buff Poppy.
He does not care. Chippy's going to do a great job here of freezing the wave out of the range of the tower, waiting for those minions to come in. Ensure he gets as much free farm as possible and denies Tien.
Yeah, so the mid lane point that I was making is a lot of Corki builds now involved here at the Goddess. To go tier into Hex Drinker is a very, very weird build. It feels bad. He's actually in a lot of trouble here. Might need a flash. Ooh. Has enough mana.
Rocket jumps away. No teleports available for these mid laners. That only gets worse when level 6 comes online.
Yeah, so my expectation, just for this mid lane matchup, that bounce, honestly, that just cut it out is he'll probably go Hex Drinker and not the tier build. He may go full Manamune later just because a completed Manamune does stack very quickly, but if you don't have a Hex Drinker and Syndra hits 6, high risk of you dying.
Well, with the advantage that was found in the bottom lane just moments before, it's actually be Katsuri rushing the tier 2 Berserker Greaves. He can utilize Croc's pressure on this map to get Chiefs online with the very first Dragon of the game. It's going to be an Ocean Drake. Not going to have that disastrous soul present in this matchup. Helps the lanes.
Yeah, might just end up having Mountain Souls every single game of this series, Kibby. We might just be Mountain Souls till the end of time here in the OPL.
Boys.
Just a bunch of tanks. What better series to have it as well when you've got tanks versus bruisers as a playstyle? Which is weird to say because Chippies isn't the notorious tank player, but here we are. Mel fighting to Poppy.
Doing the job. Would have loved to have those double buffs there. He's still going to be Tien in the driving seat, however. Very small little CS lead at this stage of the game. But Croc, I mean, I mentioned it in the draft, the guy can, as you say, what, Mechanics Max? Just full-on Smurf. I mean, how that Sonic Wave connected from afar like that really shows that they are looking at those fine margins to turn things around.
Yeah, he has Mastery of the Champion. So one thing we haven't really spoken about too much while it is on our screens here, Skimmy, is the Rakan pick in bottom lane. It's not very often seen without the Xayah, but Rakan is one of those picks that's actually pretty good into Braum. So there was a lot of supports taken away from Cupcake. He has played Rakan plenty of times historically through his career as a player, but the Rakan is good into Braum because it takes 4 auto attacks first of all to actually stun someone, and he can weave in and out so incredibly quickly that it makes it very easy as a Syndra ult's just going to let Claire know, keep him honest. So you can play pretty aggressively down in that bottom lane, use the W forwards. Having the Xayah makes it much easier, so there is still more margin for error with Misfortune instead. But if you can kite around nicely, you can actually out-trade that Braum, and you out-sustain by having the heal.
Seems to be netting them a good little bit of income here, as Vital, despite falling down, is actually going to find himself in a CS lead. Direwolves will keep their bot lane fixated on the bottom side of the map for the meantime as they start this Rift Herald, but out comes Croc, goes in with the kick, looks to try and be insect, does fall victim to a shot kill. That's what the Syndra wants to find. Tien flashes very aggressively forward, pops the death from, goes for the 1v1. He's looking to try and finalize it, but Chippies takes him down to the grave.
Yeah, Tien chooses to flash in out of the Jarvan ultimate and look for a trade onto that Jarvan and just completely misses the spell. It was close, you know, he forced the stopwatch, he survived for a longer time than you would think, but they really commit themselves to that trade, and at the end of the day, I think Direwolves will be pretty happy with the results of that.
That they will be. Get the Syndra online before Chiefs, before the Corki starts to scale on up. We always talk about how the Corki can hit level 16 and be an absolute menace. But we'll need those items, and we'll have to see if they do actually decide to go for the Hex Drinker optimization to make that matchup just a little bit easier. The Vital still having a very nice time in this matchup, despite not having the boots. We'll rely on the Misfortune passive, and we'll be able to set up as a living turret to deploy damage from afar.
Yeah, and frankly, you know, they did die 2v2 in bottom lane, but his CS difference is very high in his favor here, Vital. So very happy with how that's gone, considering. You know, we spoke about the support interactions in that matchup. We've seen a whole host of Aphelios and Misfortune, so nothing too surprising between those two. And how the junglers come into play down in that bottom lane is obviously going to be a factor when they start to get down here. In the meanwhile, you know, Katsuri might be suffering some CS difference, but they are getting turret plates, and they do have a kill to equalize.
That they do. Both teleports will be up for these mid laners in just a second. And the competition to win yourself some sweet skins courtesy of Neosurf has just closed. So if you did miss your chance, unlucky, but you will get another chance in the next game. So if you haven't already, hop on over to Twitter, @OPL. Get yourself in the mix there.
Yeah, I
Snag
think
yourself some good ways to look good on the Rift.
I think they're deserving of a thank Mr. Direwolf, just because they gave us 5 whole chances yesterday. There's a chance that we even get that today. They're able to win that Game 2 victory. Perhaps we go the distance 2 series in a row.
The perfect story to finish out these playoffs, to claim your fame, keep yourself in those grand finals. But with the Drake up in now 20 seconds. Shot will be completed here by Shock. Has gone for the completed Sork boots, so have a lot of magic penetration to make sure when the ultimate does land, it does delete.
And
We'll have to use the teleport to get back to lane.
Chippies has rushed to QSS. It gets you out of the Mordekaiser ultimate, but I guess my question when I see that is why? Are you concerned about being inside a Mordekaiser ultimate as a Poppy? I figured you would not be the highest priority champion, and you're also 2-0-2. So, in my mind, you probably rush Merc Treads instead of a QSS, and you get the magic resistance from the items that you would be completing faster instead of the QSS tax as it is. Because that doesn't build into any kind of relevant item in your build as Cupcake.
No. That is creative. I like that play a lot. They jump over, as does Cupcake. The follow-up comes line. Double teleports to come in from that brush to make this fight a desirable trade in each team's favor. Heals are used. Members fall on down. Mira surviving on 10 health. Actually, Vital getting in the way to be used as a body-blocking member. Shock flashes out of the mace coming on down, but Clerk from across the wall secures the 1v1 over his mid laner. Direwolves get the Drake. Nearly fall victim to an assassination attempt here by the Chiefs.
It does end up being a 2-for-1 trade, though, in favor of the Direwolves, so they come out of that one pretty happy overall. Claire very nicely done, however, positionally to make sure that they do still get that pick. And you saw just how powerful that Poppy is, even with a QSS that wasn't needed through that fight. So there's still a lot of strength backing up the Direwolves here. The Chiefs still defiant, however, still looking for those fights if they can. Just not able to really net home all of the kills. And you'll get to see them all use the Blast Cone here to kick this one off. They find Cupcake, but the immediate response on engaging is fantastic at buying time. Stopwatch also going to be there to survive through the fight. And then Tian comes into the mix. They'll take out Mir, and then he'll try and use the ultimate on to a second target. And the problem with this, right, is they don't take out Mir because Tian goes for the 2-for-1 play. So it could have been a much more even trade. End of the day, they're just lucky to get that extra kill on a Shock as he survives the entirety of that 7 seconds stuck in that death realm.
And Claire is laughing straight to the bank as he was actually in the animation to recall back to base because he had no mana. He's able to be donated a kill as Shock is flashing away only to come out that death realm and be like, well, that's not what I wanted to see. And the Herald now will find a fair bit of value with that headbutt, and they'll be able to get back to lane with some items now, with Essence River being the first major completed item.
Dials are emoting. They're starting to get some mental edge here perhaps over their opponents as well, starting to feel themselves.
This is what we talked about yesterday, right? Even in game number 5, they were still emote spamming and showcase that they're, despite going for 4 hours on the trot and having a major pause in the middle of that series, they were still in a good mental spot.
The Titan mindset is definitely a factor here for the Direwolves, and you know that may be one of the swiper quotes, but at the end of the day, it was still very much shared by Chippies. That leaks into the team as a mentality. You know, one of your captains and leaders.
It'll be a 2v2 here. And Shock is getting bullied.
Oh, he's
Can
alive.
Claire land the final auto? He may have to use the Valkyrie. Can hang on to that flash for the meantime. Once again finds a trade on his mid laner counterpart. His jungle mid influence goes opposite ways.
Yeah, just a 1-for-1 trade. Chippies is going to be the first one to come towards this mid lane, however, does not have Demolish, but the tower will still drop. So at the end of the day, the Direwolves will get extra from it. And what is just the jungler for the mid laner. Claire still finds himself as a 2-0 Corki, however, and if there's someone that you'd be looking at to scale up, get those items, get those teamfight victories, it is always going to be Claire.
The real story has to be in this top lane, right? The flex onto a Poppy for Chippies, now sitting at 4-0-2. Haven't really seen the use of the QSS just yet, but turning Tien into a Mordekaiser powerhouse and more into a Death Realm utilizer.
Well, he's going to go for the attack speed build. So the whole purpose of Tien right now in this game will be to pick a carry. It could even be a tank and just annihilate them. Like once you've got the Nurse's Tooth, you're auto-attacking, you get your Conqueror procced up straight away, and you've got 7 whole seconds to just wail on someone. And this build is kind of an all-purpose catch-all, where like a full AP build could kill carries. This is AP with the attack speed to take out tanks as well.
Direwolves will seize that opportunity with the tempo that they've acquired, with a 2k gold lead to their name, to get themselves the second Herald, which they've been using to great effect so far to open up the map with
That
mid
blue
tower
buff had a
putting them down.
vendetta. I'm sorry, that thing just didn't want to aggro shock. That was very confusing. It cancelled a recall from Mir, and it made its mind up.
Maybe the Chiefs have sabotaged the Direwolf jungle. Maybe slipped him a $5 note.
Hey,
That's
blue
how it
buff.
works, doesn't it?
There's a Drake
Absolutely.
up in 60 seconds. Do you want to just chase down their recalls for me?
Do you just want to delay that? Just make my life a little bit easier.
Either way, the Drake is up in 10 seconds, so he did his job, whether he was commissioned for it or not.
It might be that boring affair with our third Mountain Soul of the day. Tanky boys, bruiser boys, all about shields.
And we have item spikes. So we've got our Luden's Echo done for Shock. We have the adaptive helm for Chippies. A lot of component items that Chippies had. He finally gets to complete one. So now he is very powerful. And realistically, there is no contest available there from the Chiefs. It is a 1-4 jungler, this Lee Sin as well. He managed to have an experience lead over Mir, but not the same amount of impact, unfortunately, at the current moment. There's just too much threat from the opposing team.
And this is a pick that Mir is very comfortable on, and I've been quite happy to see him stick to this job, and if he's allowed to get it every single game, then why not?
Yeah.
He's able to just set his team up for success, act as a supportive style jungler, doesn't have to be that carry. Can really allow the likes of Chippies to play comforts and do their job and be that star flashy member, and obviously allow Vital to have the protection for always that follow-up damage.
I mean, the joke is that he plays two champions, Mir. Both of them are currently featured in this game. One in Croc's hands, one in Mir's hands. He always seems to be able to do much better when he gets those picks, though we have still seen some pretty good Olaf performances. The occasional Trundle, the occasional Silas. Nevertheless, he got his comfort in this one. Direwolves, they secure themselves the Drake. There is no Rift Herald to take. We might find ourselves at a moment where it all comes down to getting a single kill, getting a single pick. And this was kind of the point in the last game where the Chiefs faltered.
We were seeing back-to-back trades and members looking to burn out summoners, burn out ultimates, and make these subsequent fights for the Barons, for the Dragon Souls, that much easier to achieve. And we just hit that state of just complete chaos, right? Just back-to-back team fights. Respawn, go at it again. Recall, go at it again. And we're in that sort of moment now where you're really waiting for a couple of those core items. We saw it really start to come online once those two item power spikes were unlocked. A little bit different this game with some of the scaling champions that are present here.
He gets spotted, doesn't have the sweeper to get through that area, so the unfortunate side effects of having a Rift Herald. He'll summon it, however. Geraldine is ready to smack down on some outer turrets, and will do exactly that. Dial's able to continue to play the map as best as possible. Get some extra gold. Now 3,000 and growing in their favor.
They are funneling this money into Shock's back pocket. He's the one that is able to pick it up, and he's the one that's able to deploy it. Now getting 2 successful headbutts, making top lane severely impacted.
Yeah, most definitely another charge up there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're at a point where if I was the Direwolves, I'd be very content to continue to just play the map out. You know, you can have a 1-4 if you wanted. The threat of a Poppy teleport is going to do some serious work into the minds of the Chiefs. You don't want to sit there and let Tan farm freely for too long, but if you're able to get priority in any way and then threaten side lanes, you'll be having a good time. Misfortune needs 2 items, really. Once that Infinity Edge is online, the team fight capabilities, you know, that bullet time damage, being able to crit is huge. I think at that point's when they'll start to put the pedal to the floor.
Well, we've seen Shock go for the big rod, the big damage, the big one-shot ability. Cupcake's going to open up with a dash into a charm. But Brum will be just as nimble as the Rakan and be able to dash away.
The thing that scares me about this game, Sibby, is that we are still a pretty big item spike team on the Chiefs side of the coin, and if Direwolves play too slow, the Chiefs will well and truly be able to get back into this game, no problems whatsoever. The Trinity Force, already one of the 3 components that Claire would like to have. Like mentioned, he's not going to go for the tier build. but he is going straight into his second attack speed item, so most likely going to be the rapid fire cannon.
Yep.
And then he's 2/3 of the way there to being a very powerful mid lane champion and spiking. Aphelios has the Runar's Hurricane on right now, so Katsuri is going to be a very big deal when he starts to use all of his weapons now. And that Mordekaiser getting very close to the Nash's tooth. There's concerns in this team. You know, what is this Lee Sin really going to provide to the roster at the moment? It's hard to quantify, besides maybe kicking people away. But there's some very clear strengths that they will have as this game progresses. And that's something that, you know, Chiefs may not be too concerned if the game state doesn't progress from here and just continues farming.
Let's see how they decide to size things up here, given that Katsuri has got that second item spike and Vital is power farming away to get that Infinity Edge. Whether or not they're going to go for a recall before this next Mountain Drake spawns, that would put them onto Soul Point. He's got 2 of the 3 components required to get there. So you can't be too far off now.
Starting to mount up a defense here, perhaps the Chiefs being a little bit more defiant with their vision control. He's keeping the Direwolves honest. But shot comes down and they have the numbers advantage. That's actually a very early teleport used by Claire to make sure he gets to the pit, so they are looking at this. This could be a point of contention. This could actually be a moment in this game where gold leads either blow out in favor of Direwolves or are brought back completely by the Chiefs. We will see. And Croc's on a big flank.
Direwolves have that 4k gold lead right now. As you say, Croc on the flank looking to make something happen. Cupcake just jumps into 4 and locks them in place with the allure that a Rakan provides, making it very easy for Vital to follow up there with the bullet time. Moonlight Vigil from afar, pads down their health bars. Tien finds the 1 kill, gets the value from what his kit provides, but it is Vital that squares up in the end and takes him on down. They find themselves a nice healthy trade, denying the top half of the Chiefs roster out for the trade of a support.
Yeah, they look for the fight, Chiefs, and Croc is a non-factor. He basically, his purpose is to soak an ultimate. At this point, he ward hops over the wall, perhaps looking for a flash kick, and you'll get to see that, but he's not in range. He goes onto a control ward and just dies. Just absolutely dies. And then in that same moment, Cupcake sees his chance, sitting on a control ward himself, to get the ult off, to flank all of them. He does it very successfully, it's worth pointing out, charming all of them, and Misfortune follows that as well. And from this point, you know, Tien's going to do his work. He's going to try and take out Cupcake, but the damage was done from Cupcake. His job was completed. Direwolves, they control the rest of that team fight. Chip is barely losing a single bit of HP at the end of that as well.
And you asked the question, right, what is Croc's job, or how is he really going to influence this team fight? Well, in that situation there, Merc Treads or not, he was just stun locked to death, unable to find any kind of love in that team fight, unable to influence it at all.
Yeah, a bit of a roughie here. Also waiting for Tan to perhaps get a stopwatch if he wants to still stay in these fights after his ultimate is used. Right now he is just going to be an ult cannon. And it's a hard thing because at this point, the Chiefs draft just becomes 3 champions and then 2 pieces of cannon fodder. You've got Claire, Katsuri, and Korea CK trying their absolute hardest. You know, there's a 2-0 Corki. Katsuri is very well farmed. He's on the clock. Now, he's definitely not vital level of CS in this game, but he is still very farmed. And is 1-0-1. If those 3 work in unison, then they can still potentially win a team fight, and the scaling is gross. But that Lee Sin's not going to be providing too much right now, and that Mordekaiser is just taking someone out of the fight for the current moment. And last fight it was Rakan. So, going to have to find someone else.
Very desirable trade, which allows them to sustain this gold lead. Direwolves will utilize that advantage by now getting those major components, those expensive items complete. With Shock now having the Rabadon's cap, and Vital having completed not only the Infinity Edge, but also himself having a QSS. So, making Tien's job once again just a little bit harder to find that target to take out, to not have any kind of influence on these team fights.
You know what's great about this situation, Skimmy, is if we were the old playoffs format, we wouldn't be here. Teams didn't get 2 chances. There wasn't a double elimination. Direwolves, by finishing 3rd, earned the right to compete in 2 best-of-5s, and here they are. They took out Order, and they're taking it to the Chiefs.
They are forcing their hand, and they are pushing out both mid and top waves, because they want to set up for this man right here.
Is that ward not being spotted by the control ward? Chiefs are fully aware that's being done. That control ward isn't deep enough.
It's just disappeared now. Out comes
Direwolves,
another control
yeah.
ward that Baron instantly disengaged from.
I'm guessing they just had to place another ward and that actually capped the number of wards available. So Direwolves actually see that one. They'll disengage as well. They're engaging though.
Oh, Chippy just goes in for the stun. And once again, Croc, no influence on this fight. He cannot display or influence this fight in whatever manner he deems fit. 3 members surround Katsuri. He's able to take down one before he subsequently falls. Claire, utilizing the blue buff to great effect, stands strong from the backline, does what is necessary. Tien finding the wrong spot to use that death realm as he can flash into the Raptor Pit. Chippy's incredibly tanky, just commands the respect, walks out of harm's way. That's a very healthy Vital to continue the siege.
Yeah, Vital's still very strong, but the thing is, that was a 2-for-3 trade in a situation where Direwolves are 6,000 gold ahead, and it wasn't a whitewash team fight. Claire is doing some serious damage. Katsuri is able to trade himself for another member. We'll see this fight once again. Chippy's flashes in, I believe, on the Croc to start this off with the smack into the wall. Doesn't even need to flash, actually. And then Cupcake still keeps his W. They'll lock down Katsuri, who amazingly, from the situation that he was in, survives for so long, using the red weapon, getting the redemption out of Korea CK, and they turn that into a trade. Now, Shock and Tien going to have their 1v1, but flashing over the wall means that it's just going to be the 1-for-0 as a result of that Mord ultimate. But look how close that was, Skibby, to being an even fight.
That weapon setup and the redemption being the absolute difference maker here. Vamp Scepter now is online. You imagine with Legend Bloodline being his rune setup too, it'll be a lot easier now to be self-reliant. But you can see there is just so many threats that he has to contend with. You know, Chippy's just flashing forward to ensure that he falls victim down as well. Baron will not be picked up. There are 10 seconds now for another dragon fight. Claire, level 15, nearly at that magical moment, forced to use the package, incredibly defensive from the Direwolves' pressure.
Yeah, package was about to run out. I think Mordekaiser also going to pull them closer towards him. He's in trouble.
Croc on the flank again, trying to make something happen. Does manage to disengage, but Vish for a moment, the bouncy castle, bullet time. Okay, Vital, we see you, and you see danger on the map as he gets a double kill. And this time the fight looks a lot more convincing here, Rusty. They are going to go for the 5-man ace. And they are going to dismantle Chiefs in this team fight here.
Yeah, Korea CK does get the flash out. He's going to survive, so it's not going to be the clean ace, but it was a 4-for-0 trade. Drake is secured. They can run straight over after getting the Mountain Soul to the Infernal Drake itself. The concern here for the Chiefs is they might have been so pressured to take that fight that they missed the execution. But at the end of the day, Direwolves hit the mark brilliantly, and they get a sick wombo coming out of all of them. Now, Tien starts this by pulling people towards him, gets stunned, and by the time he ults, he has half his health left. And that's enough damage done for Shock to just smack him around, and meanwhile, the Direwolves, the Rakan, the Jarvan, and the Misfortune just clean the house of the rest of the Chiefs. Katsuri, once again, one of the better positioning AD carries that you've seen when it comes to these team fights, will try his hardest, but he doesn't have enough damage to get through that Poppy.
And now with 3 Mountain Dragons, as well as a Mountain Soul, Void Staffs, Lethality, Armor Penetration, you name it, becomes so damn necessary to try and get through these members, because they were brutal and bold in their engage attempts, but, you know, after that last team fight, you get incredibly confused as to how they can turn this one around.
The thing with this game, Skimmy, is it was a 6,000 gold difference before that fight happened. Now we're at 10,000, and all that's left really for them is to put a bow on it. If you're the Direwolves, this game is all but wrapped up, and you'll be thinking about the next one if you were the Chiefs, let's be honest. 1-7 is Croc, 1-6 is Tien. And we saw what happens when a 5v5 team fight happens. Now just increase that ability from the Direwolves as that gold lead stretches.
And you don't get these performances very often from Croc. He has been that star jungle performer in the OPL, arguably the best jungler in the OPL, but this game, he has met his match. He has been unable to find value with that Lee Sin pick, and the Direwolves, with that 10,000 gold lead, are looking to set themselves up for success by sieging the base and acquiring an inhibitor.
If Vital has the Bloodthirster, the Overheal shield from his runes, and the Mountain Soul shield, if he auto-attacks a minion, he has almost Like, the shield, look at the shield that he has. How are they ever going to break that? If he stands here and delivers damage, I think they still win with him standing still.
I don't know, Rusty. That is the answer. I just don't know. First inhibitor falls on down in the bottom lane. Now they turn their attention to the mid lane. Second inhibitor will fall on down 31 minutes into game number 3 of this best of 5 series. Direwolves mere moments away from seeing that victory screen pop up.
One lane left standing. There is still an Elder Dragon in 3 minutes as well, and it seems like the recall and the reset is going to be the decision here from the Direwolves camp. So that third inhibitor will at the very least remain. If ever there was a moment, the Chiefs, they'll be getting funneled farm for 3 minutes. Direwolves' options are now limited for map play. And I'm trying to find that silver lining for the Chiefs here when I'm saying all of this. But the Direwolves have to come to you for the next couple of minutes. When that Elder is up, it becomes a different game entirely. But for now, you've got time. You've bought time at the cost of 2 inhibs.
And what does that time really equate to? Well, Corki's going for a recall now. Does he have the Infinity Edge? Yes, he does. Doesn't need to go for the Hex Drinker as he has the Merc Treads for that MR. Starting to reach those points where the scaling champions may be an influence. Last Whisper completed here for Katsuri. The armor penetration that we highlighted being a major necessity to try and break through these resistances that these Drakes provide. But 11k gold difference, 2 minutes on major objectives that can force a comeback. I just do not see a world in which Direwolves allow it to stretch out that long.
Yeah, Teleport comes in a very defensive position here as well. He could have done it on a minion, but didn't want to run the risk of being engaged on if he did teleport to that minion and keep the team hitting the tower. Nevertheless, it doesn't matter too much. Corki has a package, so of all times that they would look for a fight, that package would help. He's also gone for it now instead of holding on for the Elder. So I think they will need this.
Final inhibitor falls. Now there's a exposed Nexus. Once again, they find the Wombo combo. Mir and Vital synergizing beautifully together. Croc is gone. CK for the protection is deleted. A double kill for the man Vital. Trading that into now a triple kill. And just face tanking towers because of the amount of shields this man can acquire.
And that should be its gimme. They should just be able to end the game here, and they'll put themselves at match point to get to the OPL finals.
That they will. Direwolves dismantle Chiefs. The emotes come out, they're flaring, they're acing. And they are now 2-1 in this best of 5.
And I want to speak towards momentum from the Direwolves off yesterday. They're hot to trot. They've played 5 games. Now they're 3 games in, but the thing is, they lost that first game today against the Chiefs. Even if they had the lead. So I want to say this is still that fresh series, and they come into this game and they look like the better team. There's been a lot of missed skirmishes from players like Croc, who is the lifeline of this team in so many ways. But if he doesn't hit the mark early, if those skirmishes go awry, suddenly the Direwolves are able to pounce, and when they've got the lead, they don't want to relinquish that.
Now at 2-1, we have to see if Chiefs can bring them, the taste of their own medicine with the reverse sweep of their own to try and get themselves back into this series. You have a reverse sweep yesterday and then a potential comeback from the lower bracket to take on Chiefs again and say, look, we lost the first time, but we're going to beat you this time. It's all up to play for as we go into game number 4, a potential decider here. We're going to jump to a quick break, and when we return, we see how things pan on out.